welcome to another episode of Hitmakers Unite. I'm Malachi, the host, and today we got a very special guest, Andrew Afework. What's up, bruh?
What's good? What's good?
What's up? What's up? Man, this man is super talented. I'm so ready for this episode to get into it. But hey, let the people know who you are. Introduce yourself.
So my name is Andrew Afework. I am a musician, producer, songwriter, and musical instructor based out here in Toronto, Canada.
Bad, bad. The six.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, like, what got you into music? Like, I know you heavy on the keys. So, like, just talk about first the instruments you play, and then how did you get into it? Yeah.
So I predominantly play piano, and I kind of dabbled in guitar back in high school, and I did trumpet from grade seven all the way to the end of high school. But those two I haven't really touched upon. It's been a little bit, but definitely want to get
Hmm.
back to those at some point. But predominantly the piano. And so the piano is kind of an interesting story. So actually, shout out to my mom. So initially, when I was about 3 years old, um, I had my dad actually got me a guitar, and I actually wanted to play guitar. And the problem was in the area that we lived in at this time. This is around like 1996, because I was born in 1993. There weren't a lot of guitar teachers. So I remember I went to school and I was in grade. I was actually going into. I think I was in uh, kindergarten, SK or something like that. But I was turning around 4 years old, and I had a teacher. And initially, she noticed that I didn't communicate with her in the class. So she would talk to
Mm.
me, and she would look at me like, Andrew, like, what's going on? I never talk. I would never talk to her. Never respond to her. And then she literally thought I was deaf. Like, she actually thought I was actually deaf, and she told my mom this, and she's like, "Hey, maybe you might want to get him checked out." And I still remember this to this day. We ended up going to this like ear listening center, and there was this old guy, and he was telling me all these different words, and I had to repeat it back to him. And funny story. So at that point, my mom noticed like, yeah, he could talk. It's just maybe he doesn't want to talk to you. She tells us to the teacher. So now I remember the next day we had this like music kind of class where she was just playing all these different songs. And from there, she saw me just moving around and dancing and just having fun. And then she realized, oh, maybe he has a love for music. So fast forward now, my mom ends up like looking around because she thought maybe piano would be good. And then she was looking and looking, and then we actually had a gym teacher, and she actually connected my mom to my first piano teacher. And I was really young at the time, so she wasn't really sure if she would take me at a very young age, but she actually
Yeah.
did. And then from there, that's how I kind of got started with the piano, and I just started it from 4 years old all the way till now. So that's kind of how I got
Man,
into learning the piano.
that's crazy. Like
Yeah.
practically all your life. So
Hmm.
like how long how long was you under like tutelage or like having instruction?
So I started when I was four, and then I don't want to bash my piano teacher, but growing up, the teacher that I had, she didn't want me to go as far as I could have. So she had me doing a
Mm.
lot of the most beginner and basic stuff like early on. So I was doing like level 1A, level 1B for the longest time. It wasn't even until I was in grade, I think 5 or 6, my mom found out about Royal Conservatory, because that wasn't really a thing at that time. My parents didn't really know about that because my parents were not really
Mm.
into music like that. So from
Mm.
there, she found out about Royal Conservatory, and then I started doing Royal Conservatory stuff. But I was so late. So I remember I had met some kids that were younger than me, and they were way ahead of me when it comes to Royal
Mm.
Conservatory. And my mom got really
Mm.
frustrated with that. And then from there, I ended up finding another teacher. And then the funny thing about this teacher, I only had her for maybe like a couple months. What ended up happening was she fired me.
What?
She fired me because I wasn't practicing enough. So she was like, "Yeah, like I can't take you anymore. I'm
Wow.
sorry." So then from there, I had a different teacher, and at this point, I'm in high school. I think I was grade 10 or grade 11. I had a new teacher, and I had her for a little bit, and then I ended up stopping lessons. I think right when I finished high school, and I got to this point where I was actually transitioning to get into producing, and that's how
Mm-hmm.
kind of producing kind of fell into my lap, because I wanted to learn how to make music. Because all this time I'm reading this sheet music and it's great, but I felt like it was lacking my creativity and how far I want to
Mm.
take it. And then I remember right before I graduated high school, I met this one kid who was in grade 9. I'm in grade 12, and he's playing all this cool stuff. And I'm like, how do you do this? He's like, oh, yeah, I can play by ear. And I was like, wow, I want to do this. I want to be able to get to
Yeah.
that. So from there,
Yeah.
I started just studying a lot of musicians, a lot of composers on YouTube at that time, and big fan of mine is Ryan Leslie. So I would watch his videos and how he
Hmm.
creates. And he's actually the reason why I got into making music as far as being a producer. And then that's kind of how I got into composing and being able to play by ear. And then that translated to me doing different shows with different artists. And then fast forward to me doing Keys for Division and all these different artists all over the city. So, yeah.
This man hitting all this stuff. This is crazy, man.
Yeah.
Being being like taught like I guess classically or
Mm-hmm.
in a way you were taught and then transition that to making music.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's just take a step back. Like we know you are a music producer. We
Mm-hmm.
know you started by playing keys and you talked about a little bit of that transition, but like what do you enjoy about making beats and like how you I guess approach making beats because it's different, right? Like you play the keys and that's your primary instrument.
Mm-hmm.
Other people come in, they may be drum heavy and stuff. So like
Mm-hmm.
talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so it really depends because sometimes I start off with drums, sometimes I start off with the piano, sometimes I start off with a melody, sometimes I start off with chords. So it really
Hmm.
depends. And the thing I love with what I'm able to do is you can put me in any room and I can adapt because of like my playing ability and just being able to like hear a lot of different things that people can hear. So sometimes we already have a producer in the room. We might have like an engineer artist in the room, but they're like, yo, we need you to add to this beat. So there's been many times where people have sent me almost a finished song and then I will add little pieces to the beat, whether it's
Mm.
more piano, whether it's more melodies or just different things that they aren't able to hear because I have that ear of just hearing those different pockets because of my musical background.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's super valuable. Even in the creation, the idea phase of making a song, or like
Mhm.
you said, towards the end where you need maybe that nice touch, those nice
Mhm.
authentic keys. You know,
Yeah,
one thing you
definitely.
just hit on was like insane is that you work with Division and
Mhm.
you're I guess a keyboard artist for Division. So like tell us about that?
Yeah, so shout out to my guy Ricky for that. So I would love to play Keys for Division full time, but it was honestly a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I'm forever grateful for it. So fast forward, actually no fast forward, so I rewind back to 2018. I got into this program called the Remix Project, and it's pretty much an incubator for creatives that focus on the business side, the music side, and then even just uh, there's another side of it as well. So there's music, there's business, and then there's like photography. So there's a lot of different creatives in general. So I
Hmm.
got accepted and I got in the program and I was like one of four producers out of like hundreds of people that submitted. So that was a really really good look because it's very competitive program, and even now like to
Hmm.
this day there's a lot of people that are applying. And shout out to Jessie Reyes who actually was in Remix years ago, and now she's doing a lot of different things and giving back to Remix in the community. So initially I got
Okay.
into this
Yeah.
program and I actually met Ricky, and Ricky's actually division's manager. He's actually one of the coordinators at Remix, and I had told him that
Mm.
one of my end goals was to be able to play music for all these different artists and travel and all that kind of stuff. So fast forward a year later, 2019, I was actually still working my full time job at that time, and he actually texted me and he was like, "Hey Andrew, like how you doing? Are you still doing the shows? Are you still performing?" And I told him, "Yeah, I'm still doing shows, performing with artists." And then he's like, "How well are you at learning songs?" I'm like, "It depends on the songs." He gave me a list of songs, and I'm looking at them like, "Oh, this is for Division." Like he was saying all hallucinations and body smile and all these songs. He's like, I'm like, "Wow, this is for
Yeah.
Division." He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And the problem was this I only had 2 days because this was a Thursday night and the event was actually Saturday night.
Wow.
So at
Yeah.
first I wasn't even sure if I was able to do it, but I was like, you know what, let me try. And shout out to my friend. I spoke to her after, and she's like, "Yo, like, why don't you try this? Like, you never know." Because initially I was gonna be like, "No," but she's like, "You have to try this. Like, you don't know if you don't try." So I remember I went home. I spent an hour like learning the songs, playing it by ear, figuring it out, and then I hit him up like an hour later. I'm like, "Okay, like we can actually do this. We can make this happen." It's like, "Okay, cool." So then 2 days later, I remember I meet Division, well half a Division, Daniel Daly. Shout out to him. And I remember we were going through all the songs, we were playing them, and then I find out this guy plays piano too, low key, low key. And I'm like,
That's
wow,
nice.
you're talented. You don't even need me. He's like, nah, I need you to play, man. I'm like, all right, cool. So then we go through the songs, and I remember there was one song I wasn't able to properly play because the timing of it was a little bit tricky with how the music was scored, and it would work better with the drummer. So we ended up changing the last song into a different song, and it was actually good. So we actually changed the last song to Marvin's Room. So that was the last song
Mm,
that we got to play, and I feel like at that time, Division, he was big, but he's a lot bigger now. So at that time, when we were doing a lot of the songs, people were not really familiarized with that music. But when we did Marvin's Room, everyone was singing along to it. They know it's a Drake
mm,
song, so that definitely helped and definitely had more people engaged for the concert that we did. But yeah, it was such a great experience. We got to perform at this really nice, expensive mansion, all the way like in a
wow.
very expensive area in Toronto. It was a private party only, like invite only and stuff like that. I remember I had me and my friends, we all dressed up, looking nice. So yeah, it
Yeah.
was such a great experience, and I'm just forever grateful to be able to do that. And I know in the future I might be able to play with him again, but I already know he has like his own people, his own team. But it was just an honor. It's honest to be able to play with him, and honestly, because of that, that definitely helped my name and my brand, and being able to actually charge for shows because getting paid as a musician in Toronto is very hard because a lot of times people
Mm,
don't have a budget or they don't feel like you're worthy for your time to being paid properly. So that
yeah.
definitely helped and put a little bit more respect to my name when it came to shows. So it was definitely such a humbling experience, and I'm very grateful for it every day.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. And it seemed like you learned a lot from performing with him, and it was beyond just like the experience of just playing in that moment. It's been beneficial to you, like even
Mm-hmm.
to this day.
To this
So
day, yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's nice. That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I guess like if we take a step back, like what inspires you to make music? I mean, making music for you, I think is pretty easy. Like
Yeah,
I
because I've
mean,
been doing it since, so I
for
started making beats since I was
yeah,
16. I'm 29
right,
now, so
right.
it's been a long time. So
Right. So you so skilled at it. So like
mhm.
what keeps you going at it, you know?
Honestly, I love creating new music. The thing with me is I think since 2017, that's probably the year where I stopped forcing it because I feel like when I was doing music before that, I would try to make music every day, which is great. It's great because when you get into that habit of creating, like you obviously get better. But I felt
Mm-hmm.
like when I was doing it so much every day, all the time, like the ideas you're kind of forcing it. And I learned that you should. For me now, I always want to create when I feel inspired and when I'm in a good mood and I'm in a good space. You know what I mean? I don't want to just
Mm-hmm.
make something just because it's Friday. I want to make something because I'm in the mood and I know what I'm going to create right now is going to be beneficial. There's intention with what I'm going to create. I have people I can
Mm.
send it to and it's not going to sit on my laptop kind of thing.
Yeah, do you feel like that's good, man? Do you feel like the music that you create is better because you take this different approach?
Yep,
Yeah,
definitely,
yeah.
definitely. I feel like the music that I've been able to make since then till now has been able to do a lot more better and greater things compared to the music I was making before. And now I actually know how to create a song properly and just my approach because I feel like now I've been able to work a lot of different artists and a lot of different songwriters. And before, when I didn't do that, I was making beats for myself. I was putting so many different things on it. It was sounding like an orchestra. I was putting so many drums and melodies and counter melodies, and then when the artist wants to hop on it, they're like, "There's no room." You know what I mean? So
Right,
yeah,
right,
you
right.
have to
Got to
take the
strip
beats
it
of,
all
you have to
away.
strip it all away.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And that took me a
yeah,
long time to learn it, to figure that out. And then even
yeah.
just working with other producers that are more seasoned, that have worked with different artists, and even just like, yeah, what you're doing is a little too much. Take out this, and then just learning from other people and being a lot of different sessions has definitely helped me as well too.
Man, that's nice. And I guess what I'm taking away from it is that when you're early on in your career, and I guess it's for people listening early on in your career, man, hustle, make as many beats as possible, try as many things out as possible, learn as many different skills, be creative as possible. But once you got that tool set and you've built that up, hey, take your time and let your emotion and let your feeling drive the music because that's what people gonna feel at the end of the day. They're not gonna feel the 16 hi hats and how crazy they is, but they gonna feel the emotion and the effort you put into it. So, man,
Definitely.
that's a word, man.
Less is more, and then I always
Less is more.
my the main thing I always tell people, especially with trying to get placements and trying to get artists to hop on your music is space is your best friend.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
man. So that's cool, bro. Like it's been crazy. Okay, so we got more to talk about though. Um, so where do you see your music? Yeah, I guess as a music producer, where do you see your career going? Yeah,
I think that I'm gonna be getting more placements, hopefully, God willingly. And
yeah,
I see myself working with more artists on a global scale, not just
mm,
artists in Canada and the US. I see UK, India, Africa, wherever. I see myself doing
yeah.
that. I see myself traveling, and then even just from the performing aspect of it, I see myself going on tour with different artists all over the world. And I see myself producing more music on TV and film and shows. And yeah, I think that's those are the main things when it comes to the music producing side. And then I guess from a teaching standpoint, because I teach piano, I
Mm-hmm.
definitely want to start my own school here in Toronto and really give back to the
Yeah,
community and really focus on piano and production and really open the doors for more people because I feel like the next generation is really important, and I want to be a huge part of that. I want to be definitely recognizable for that. And I think it's always
yeah.
good to always give back and not just to always expect to get paid, but just to, give your time. I feel like that's the most important thing. A lot of times we're always expecting things for us, but it's like, no, it's always good to give back.
Right, right, right. And I see a little bit of it like the teach you trying to give back in a way that teacher you had early in your childhood didn't give back to you. You know what I'm
Exactly,
saying?
exactly,
So yeah,
exactly. I would never want anyone to go through what I went through. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's why I'm
yeah.
very like dedicated with all the students that I have, especially now. Especially because a lot of my students are very young, right? And they absorb a
Mm-hmm.
lot. And having a good teacher in the beginning, or even just a good mentor, it goes a long way.
Man, yeah. Man, that's awesome. You said a lot of things there. So, with your music career or music producing career, you want to be able to produce tracks for artists globally. You want to be able to perform more, and you talked about getting placements for TV shows. And so, I think you got a couple already.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
what are those, and how did you get them? Yeah.
Okay, so Apple TV Plus, that's a network that I didn't even know about until I got this TV placement, which was really crazy. So So I have to definitely rewind. So back in 2017, yeah, 2017. So I've been working with this guy named Jazz Feezy. Shout out to him, one of the dopest, and I call him the king of syncs because he has so many syncs when it comes to getting TV, music on TV and stuff like that. So I've been working with him
Mm,
since 2016. So back in around that time, I was actually working on stuff with him for More Life for Drake. And I remember that I think his team wanted some kind of Afro vibes, and I actually sent a sample to my guy named Chris, who's another producer that works closely with Jazz, and he actually ended up making a crazy sample to what I sent him on the
mm,
piano, and then finished the beat.
mm,
And then fast forward 2 years later, we got this very talented upcoming artist from Toronto called his name's Notify. So we got him on it, and then I remember that Jazz told me, he's like, oh, we got him on the song, and but Notify didn't know about me. So I remember I DM'd him, and I'm like, hey, like I heard I got a song with you. He's like, really? What's the song? And I told him it's called Weak, and he's like, oh wow, like how'd you know? I'm like, yeah, I made the sample. He's like, oh, okay, cool. So then fast forward, 2020, he ends up releasing the single, and the single does really well. A lot of people love it, and it's doing well. And I'm like, this is a really dope track. Fast
mm,
forward to beginning of 2021, I get a call from Jazz, and when I tell you Jazz does not call me, he never calls me unless it's something important. Like never calls anyone unless it's something very important. So I remember I answered the phone. I'm like, hey, like, is everything good? He's like, yeah, man, just wanted to call you, wish you like you got your first sync. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, we got it placed on this show called Swaggers, and it's on Apple TV Plus, and it's pretty much based off of Kevin Durant's life when he started doing basketball and taking it serious coming up. So that
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
so then that we found that out back in February, and then the show aired back in November. I think it was November 12th. Yeah, November 12th of 2021, episode 5. And the crazy thing about this, so funny story about this. So we had no idea when our episode was gonna air with the song in it. No idea.
Okay.
But I
Yeah.
had a feeling it was gonna be episode 5. I had a feeling. Like I really
Yeah.
had this crazy feeling about it, but we didn't know. So I remember the show airs sometime in October, like the first episode, and then second, third, fourth, and then
Mm-hmm.
I remember the day before the fifth airs, I still didn't hear anything. So I'm like, okay, like sure, like maybe maybe it didn't air for the maybe it's the sixth. The next day I wake up, I look at my phone, I see all these notifications. Jazz tags me in it. He's like, yeah, episode five, Swagger's episode, the song's playing. I'm like, wow, I was
Bro,
actually
that's
right.
crazy.
So, and the crazy thing, the five is my lucky number too. That's my lucky
Oh
number.
wow.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's why I was like, it has to be episode five. Something was
Full
telling me five.
circle.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Full
Man,
circle.
that's
So
amazing. That's amazing. Like,
yeah.
who, like you started off working on a project, or at least contributed to a project with Drake, and that
Mhm.
turned into another song for an artist that
Mhm.
turned into
Yeah.
something for a TV show. It's crazy
It's crazy.
how that worked. Yeah.
Yeah, 4 years from 2017 to yeah, no, you know, 5, yeah, 4 years, yeah, 2017 to 2021. That
Man,
whole
yeah.
process. So
Hey, you got to trust the process,
trust
y'all.
the
Trust the
process, man. I always tell
process.
people, gotta be patient,
Yeah.
gotta be patient.
Yeah.
And even with just getting paid for that, I literally just got paid for that end of last year.
Man,
Because with
hey,
TV, how it works is once the
it's
show
slow.
show airs, then you have to wait between 8 to 12 months of getting paid.
Hey,
Yeah, it takes
hey,
time.
but I'm sure the TV money looking nice.
Oh,
Apple
oh,
Music,
100%,
they,
100%. It was definitely nice, nice. USD money
yeah,
too? Can't go wrong with USD. And I'm in
USD.
Canada. Come on now. Come on
Hey,
now.
hey, hey,
Yeah.
the conversion crazy.
Conversion crazy stuff.
So you also got something on Netflix too, right? Though, right?
Yeah, so the
Okay.
Netflix one, I till this day it's still wild to me because that day wasn't just Netflix. So I actually ended up getting music on this app that so TTC is like the Toronto Transit, and people use it to travel everywhere and stuff like
Right,
that.
right,
So
right.
I had the opportunity to actually make a beat for a bus route that travels all over Toronto.
Wow.
Yeah, so I got that through Remix. Shout out to my guy Abel. So we kind of connected that, and then that same day, when I got that, I got the Netflix. So it was like two things in one
Wow.
that day. Yeah. So
Hey,
yeah.
this is crazy. Y'all gotta listen to how he's getting these placements. Like, I mean, who's thinking about making a beat for like L Train or like whatever
Yeah,
metro
yeah,
service,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
who's thinking
exactly.
about that?
Yeah,
Like,
crazy,
man, like, yeah, yeah,
crazy.
that's crazy.
So,
All right, man. Yeah,
so for
yeah.
the
Go
Netflix
ahead.
one, I didn't even know about it until the day of, which was crazy. Because Jazz, what he
Mm-hmm,
does
mm-hmm.
sometimes when I have some placements and stuff with him, he doesn't tell me, he just tags me in it. Yeah,
Like, this how I tell him.
literally, literally. But I'll tell you the story
Yeah,
with that beat. So with
yeah.
that beat now, literally, this was literally for supposed to be for Drake, More Life, and I was actually working with a homie named Steve. Shout out to him. He works really like right close to the Jazz. So we were working on this idea, and it was kind of like a trap kind of bounce. And I remember I played the piano to him, and then he was like, "Oh, I like it, but it's too repetitive. It's like change it up like the
Mm.
halfway through." So then I changed it up halfway through, and then he's like, "Okay, this is perfect." He added drums to it, and I'm like, "Bet." So then I think it was maybe a year or two later, we got two songwriters on it. We got a guy and we got a girl, and they were singing and rapping to it. And then we actually ended up doing like a sync album because Jazz does a lot of sync albums. And then from there,
Mm.
we try to get those placed for TV and film. So we ended up
Mm.
dropping that, and then their two versions were on it. Really, really dope. And then fast forward back last year, back in 2022, I guess the beat, so the actual instrumental for that beat actually got placed on this show called Marriage and Mortgage. I think it was like episode like 5 or 7 or something like that. So that's kind
You
of how
said
that happened.
marriage or what?
Marriage or
What's the
Mortgage
show? Okay, marriage and
it's
mortgage.
on
Okay,
Netflix.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's how
Netflix,
that
yeah.
happened. Yeah, yeah, man.
Man, hey, I feel like half of the battle is like, can you make good music? The other half of the battle is, how do I? What are my channels? What's my distribution to get this out to places so that I can get placements?
Yeah,
And
it,
that's really key. Go ahead.
yeah, and it's just like who you know is super important. The relationships
Yeah.
you have. And I've been very blessed because I got to connect with Jazz Feezy back in 2016, and this is when he didn't have a lot of producers he was working with. This is actually when he was starting his company, his production company, and looking for producers to work with. So I ended up like reaching out to him because I'm the type of person where I really watch who's like on my page and who's like in my stuff. And I saw he liked
Mm-hmm.
a couple of my covers, so I ended up reaching out to him through DMs, And then he got back to me, and then I realized he was so busy. Then I was trying to reach out to him, but I wasn't, trying to be like too persistent. But I was still trying to keep
Hmm.
tabs on him. And then what ended up happening was he was like, "Yeah, man, sorry, I've been super busy." He showed me he had like 3,000 like unread emails and stuff. So he ended up giving me his number, and
Hey,
then we just
proof.
started connecting from there. And then that's how like the
Okay.
whole more life thing happened, and that's how all those songs kind of came together years later. And then yeah, and then the first song I ever got with him was
Connections, man.
back in 2018 with this artist named Reese, and that was the first song I actually ever got with the artist that was overseas in the States. So that was really dope, and that just goes to show people like you have to be patient. So even for 2 years, I had no music coming out with Jazz at all, like zero. It was not till end of
Mm.
2018 where I got a record with him, and then from there I got another one, and then another one, and then it was kind of like a snowball effect.
And so, how was that relationship? Like, we're using this relationship as an example. You didn't get any work with Jazz for 2 years, but
Hmm.
were you still keeping up tabs with him? Were you
Yeah.
still sending him beats? Like, what
Yeah.
was that?
So
Yeah.
initially, how me and him started working was, um, it was the More Life because Drake was working on More Life, and before that, I was just sending him ideas. He was like, "Oh, can you
Mm.
play keys on this?" He would send me like some drum loops. I'll add keys to it and stuff like that. And how I approached him was literally like, "Hey, man, like I love your work, and I would love to help you when it comes to piano. I'm not sure if you work with anybody that plays piano, but I added value there. You
Mm.
know what I mean? And a lot of people
Hmm.
need to understand like sometimes it's not about like, oh, what can I get out of this? Like how can I help this person? That's initially what it was. And
Mm.
from the start, I just wanted to help him, and I was a big fan of his work, you know what I mean? And I felt like if me and him work together, we can definitely create some great music together. And he saw that too. So that's kind of how like we were able to grow that bond and that relationship over the years.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's like a testament to like how to do relationships properly. Like
Mm-hmm.
how to like don't come into it like, oh, this person connected this person, so let me
Mm-hmm.
try to finagle my way into the situation. It's
Yeah.
like, look, like I don't think you have anybody like me on your team or in
Yeah.
your network. Like
Yeah.
I know I can do. I'm really good at this skill. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's really good, man. That's really good. Okay, so we wrapping up, but I'm curious to know more about um your instructing business. So you teach people piano. You talked about teaching mostly kids piano, but like what is that and how has that been beneficial for to you? Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna tell people a little bit background story. So I ended up quitting my full time job back in 2000 and end of 2019, like right before COVID. And I remember, like prior to that, I had a conversation with a good friend of mine. This was back in end of 2018. I told him like, hey, like I want to do this stuff full time and do music full time. And he's like, all right, let's
Mm.
do it. And then I'm like, 2020, I'm doing it. He's like, okay, we'll see. I literally did it. I pulled the plug. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm gonna do this stuff full time. So then back in 2020, what I ended up doing was I had people coming to my house and I would teach them. And I wasn't even teaching kids this time, just adults, just people that were
Mm.
like me, that were artists, producers that just wanted to learn how to play the piano. So I did that
Right,
for three
right.
months. It was going well. COVID hit, and then I had to like restructure, pivot, do a couple things on the side to make money because times was tough out here. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
COVID.
then COVID, man, literally. So from there,
Yeah.
I got to a point where I wanted to start teaching kids because it was holding me back. For the longest time, I didn't want to teach kids because I have a lot of friends that teach piano and they told me a lot of horror stories. And I was like,
Mm.
I don't know
Yeah.
if I want to do this. But I was like, you know what? Let me take this chance. So pretty much end of 2020, yeah, end of 2021, I was like, let me try this. So I ended up reaching out to a company and I started working with them when it comes to
Mm.
teaching kids. And then I got one family turned to three, five, seven, and then
Wow.
now I'm working for a couple other companies and I have my own as well. So honestly, honestly, man, it's been a great experience. The one thing I will say, teaching kids has taught me to be like a lot more patient because you have to have the
Hmm.
patience, especially for
Yeah.
the ones because like I've taught from 3.5, 4, 5. Like I teach some really
Wow.
young kids. Yeah, my
Yeah.
youngest right now is 4. Like she just turned 4. So and I was teaching her when she was 3.5. And I remember in the beginning it was tough. It
Yeah.
was very tough. But what I did, my strategy with her was to get her to do coloring. Because kids love to color.
Mm,
Get a
mm,
little
mm.
coloring in, then get a little playing in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
have to get them in. You have to get them excited. You have to make it fun. You can't just be so serious and all that. You have to make sure like they enjoy it. You know what I mean? And then when they enjoy
Right.
it,
Right.
you will enjoy it. You know what I mean? And then when they enjoy it, they will practice and make the progress, and the parents will see that, and they will enjoy that as well too. But
Man.
it's been good, man. I've been blessed. So, like I have a lot of families, and then I teach adults as well too. I My one of
Okay.
my oldest students is like 65, 70 years old. So yeah, and
Mm,
and she loves it. She loves the lessons, and I enjoy teaching her as well too. So I really enjoy it. It's honestly a great feeling to see people enjoy the instrument that you love the most, and then just seeing the progress, and then even just them putting in the work and them being happy with it. You know what I mean? Like it's
yeah.
such a great feeling. It's very rewarding at the end of the day. It takes a lot out because it takes a lot of commitment and
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of sacrifice. Because especially certain times where it might conflict with like my other schedule with studio sessions or shows and stuff like that, but when you make a commitment, you have to stick to it.
It's worth a while. Yeah, yeah. And so, I mean, what I'm hearing is, I mean, you enjoy teaching, and like you said, you have your own backstory of like you being taught and what motivates you to teach and stuff.
Hmm.
But what I'm hearing separates you from other musicians and producers that you have dependable recurring revenue, and that's
Yeah,
important if you want to do this full time.
yeah.
And like you can't really depend on shows like when
No,
is the next show going to be
no.
booked. You
Yeah,
can't depend on a beat placement. When is that going to be?
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
so that's a great avenue you've like chosen to
Hmm.
do to kind of like quit the jobs and do music full time. So yeah,
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 it's
yeah,
you
yeah.
that's the way to do it. You wanna have that financial stability and or even just money that's gonna keep coming in, right? With the lessons, it's
Right, right.
you're doing a service, right? And you're charging for a service. You're charging people lessons, right? And when you have a skill, you're able to do that. That's why I always tell people like focus on building a skill.
Yeah,
Even if producers were to learn how to, teach how to make beats. I always tell people this all the time. You got to learn a skill, focus on that, master it, so you can show other people as well, and not just rely on one source of income. Don't just rely only on shows. Obviously, to a
yeah.
certain extent, if you're working with some big people and they got a budget and money's coming in, okay, cool. But not everybody's in
Right,
that situation, and that takes time.
right.
And even for me, like
Hmm.
I know that takes time, and I definitely want to get there. But right now, this is where I'm at, and I'm very grateful for me doing piano. And shout out to my mom because she pushed me. You know what I mean? There were times
That's
where I
where it all
wanted to
started.
quit. You know what I mean? When I was younger, there were times I wanted to quit, but she wouldn't let me quit. And even like after, even like after I finished school. I had a choice where I had to either like go back to school and do something else or continue music. And I
Hmm.
continued music, and that's why like my journey is not the journey I'd want anyone to go through because I had to go through a lot, especially coming from African background and a Caribbean background. Your parents don't really understand self-employed
What is
and
this music thing?
entrepreneurship.
Right.
Exactly. And I wasn't making money for the longest time. And for the longest
Right.
time, I was just literally working on beats. And they're like, "What are you doing? Like, you're not in school, you're not
Hey, get a
working,
job.
get a job, like
Yeah.
all this stuff." And I did get a
It
job,
paid
but
off though.
it definitely did pay it off, and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, I'm still grateful for their support in the end, because in the beginning I
Yeah.
didn't get the full support, but I understand because they don't understand how it works now, and when it comes to
Yeah.
doing this, you have to make the sacrifices. You don't make the money right away.
Right.
It takes time, right? It takes
Hmm.
years.
And I think what I hear is that, I mean, most importantly, like you believed in yourself.
Yeah,
Like even when your family may have doubted you,
yeah,
you said, you know what? Like I know what I'm capable of,
yeah.
and I know what I would love to do for a living, and so I'm
Hmm.
sticking with this. And that's like applause, bro.
Thanks,
Like
bro. Appreciate
everybody
that.
needs to take that mindset. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Yeah,
Yeah.
appreciate that.
All right, so man, like if people want some extra keys on their beats, if people want
Mm.
to take some um, like classes, piano classes,
Hmm.
like how do they reach out to you? Like give us your contact.
Honestly, Instagram is literally my resume, the best way to reach out to me. So you can contact me on Instagram at Andrew and then Afework. If you have any serious inquiries, you can do the same thing and then just at gmail.com. And yeah, pretty much Andrew Afework on all platforms. That's pretty much the best way to reach me. And then on YouTube, you can look at my covers, Andrew Afework covers. And then for beats, Andrew Afework beats. And that's pretty much it.
Man, bet. Appreciate you for coming on and sharing your story, man. We gotta get you back. I always check in with you because
Yeah,
you be moving, but
yeah,
yeah, man, I appreciate you giving us this time.
no
And then for
problem.
everybody that's listening, man, thank you for listening. Thank you for making it this far. And if you are artist, producer, engineer, like anything related to the music industry, if you're trying to get in the music industry, join our Discord. It's gonna be in all the links and all the descriptions. There's gonna be a link in all the descriptions. So join that. Right now we putting on a beat competition, a beat battle, and that's gonna happen February 19th. So jump in, get these samples we're using for these beats, and like maybe you can, you know what I'm saying, beat Andrew. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, yeah, appreciate you, and that's it, man. Peace.
Later.